All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Monica Copeland. I'm a Senior Program Officer at Inclusiv. I manage the Inclusive Black Communities Project, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon titled Inclusiv's Model to Preserve and Grow Black Credit Unions. I'd like to just mention a few housekeeping announcements before we begin, and then I'll go over the agenda. I wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded, and you will get a copy of the slides after the presentation.
It's not.
It will be largely discussion, but there will be a few slides, and so you're welcome to send them over after. And at this time, we've muted all of our participants because we'd like to ensure sound quality, but if you do have any questions that come up throughout for any of the speakers, we encourage you to use the chat or Q&A feature to type in your question, and then we'll take them at the end. So as you see today's agenda, we wanted to go over, we're very happy to announce our Inclusive Preserve and Grow Black Credit Unions Guide, and we have representatives from Citi here today to make opening remarks. We have Helen Steblecki, Senior Vice President at Citi, and we're joined by Robert McGhee, Vice President at Citi. We will be able to then go from there we'll have a roundtable discussion with participants who are part of the Inclusive Black Communities projects in New York City and Chicago. And so the conversation will be moderated by Deborah Boatright. We'll be joined by Dr. Daronda Crawford and Denise Michaux. And at that point at the end, we will be able to take questions and answers. I'd like to bring in a representative from Citi. To just provide context, Citi has been the initial funder, the founding funder for this project, where we provided capacity building and technical assistance to over 20 credit unions in New York and Chicago. And so we're gonna have representative, again, Helen's gonna present information on New York. Again, her title is Senior Vice President, Citi Community Investing and Development, Citi Community Relations in the Northeast. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Helen.
Thank you so much, Monica. And good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Citi is delighted to partner with Inclusiv for this initiative. We realize the importance of it to help to strengthen faith-based and small community development credit unions that help to provide financial services and products in low and moderate income communities. So that is really what the foundation is behind the model and the webinar that we'll be presenting for you today to help strengthen those credit unions. The project actually started about 3 years ago in the New York tri-state area when Citi invested in a project that Inclusiv embarked upon in order to create and make available a platform that small credit unions could use, a standard platform with which they could deliver financial products and services to their clients, called the CU Impact. So that's where it all began. That was the first piece of it. And then from there, we formed a small cohort of about 12 credit unions that were located in the 5 boroughs of New York, as well as northern New Jersey. And these credit unions came together basically to reassess what their future plans and goals would be for growth. In most cases, the credit unions pursued the path of growth. In some cases, they pursued a path whereby they might have merged with other credit unions, depending on what made the most sense for them. But the goal behind the project was to ensure that these smaller credit unions did go forward so that they could provide these products and services. One of the key components that you'll hear about as part of the webinar today, and exciting ones, is partnership. And this is something that we have done in the borough of Brooklyn. with the Concord Federal Credit Union, which is located just 2 blocks away from Bedford Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation. The two organizations partnered 2 years ago in order to expand the services that Concord offers to members and clients of the Bedford Stuyvesant Restoration Community Development Corporation. And this has helped to fuel the growth of Concord Credit Union. So a partnership like that is really very key to this model that you'll hear about today. I also want to mention too, in the New York market, the credit unions, as they were coming together, one of the strategies that they had was not only to provide more for the members that they had, but to build membership and to also expand out to reach the next generation of consumers. And doing that, they had to, of course, strengthen their technology and also their web presence, their social media presence. And so one part of the project in New York, and I think Monica will share with you the website, was a website that was created specifically for the New York Tri-State cohort. And that was one of the tools that they used. They also received template marketing materials and also messaging that they could use for their clients so that they would be able to help spread the word and build their membership. We're moving along here in New York Tri-State, continuing with this initiative. And we also last year were very pleased to be able to expand it to the Chicago market. And joining me today as part of the introductory remarks is my colleague, Robert McGhee, who is my counterpart in the Chicago market. And he'll talk to you a little bit about what is going on there. Robert?
Thank you, Helen, and good afternoon, everyone. As Helen mentioned, Citi is honored and very pleased to be working with Inclusiv on this initiative. When the project began here in Chicago, was brought to Chicago, I should say, it was launched just 6 months before the pandemic hit. And as you can imagine, the momentum that the cohort of 10 credit unions that was built, one would think that momentum would die down. And in fact, it was just the opposite. The cohort here in Chicago were primarily focused on 3 key areas. That was grow deposits, grow their member base, and increase their lending volume. And I'm happy to say that not only have they been successful in achieving those goals in those 3 areas, they've also enhanced and expanded their technology capabilities. One of the great things that the cohort here in Chicago has embarked upon is really, and this goes back to what Helen said about partnership. They've created a great partnership with the Illinois Credit Union League. The league has been instrumental in helping the cohort here in Chicago expand their marketing efforts, get into more social media campaigns, have a wider presence to reach a greater audience here in Chicago. I do want to point out as well, as we transitioned into the pandemic stage, there were 3 of the credit unions that actually had an opportunity to apply for the CDFI rapid response payment or rapid response support. And those dollars were very instrumental in getting out into the community and helping organizations that had some challenges during the pandemic. This partnership has been very key and instrumental in ensuring that individuals and families in low to moderate income areas here in Chicago have an outlet and have another opportunity outside of the norm to be able to continue on their credit and banking needs. As time has progressed, the cohort here has also expanded their operations and their technology capabilities by instituting a core processor. The core processor will allow for maximization of deposits, a maximization of making transactions more efficient, and really providing the cohort of 10 credit unions here to really kind of gain 21st century technology and 21st century capabilities. I will say that it's been an absolute pleasure to work with the group, to watch them grow in a very short period of time, to be more adaptable to using technology as well, and really being able to not only pass on that type of service and those types of mechanisms to their constituents and to their members, but to really see the individual credit unions embrace technology and use it in a much more user-friendly way. So I think that there will be, great things ahead for the group, and looking forward to working with them more in the future. And with that, I will turn it over to Monica.
Thank you so much, Rob and Helen. We really appreciate your support and for Citi's work with us over the past 3 years on these city-centric projects. It's really allowed us to push the needle and really kind of dive in deep with our technical assistance and just finding out especially what the credit unions need in terms of support, what areas. So I'm gonna, at this point, I'm gonna do a very brief kind of highlights from the guide. I just wanted you guys to know that the Preserving and Growing Black Credit Unions Guide came out in February in Black History Month. I've provided the website here. It's also available if you were to go to inclusiv.org and click under resources and reports. And so the report is there as well. But we encourage you to take a look at it. We know that you're all very busy, so I'm just going to sort of set a little bit of framework for the guide. I do want to let you know first up that it has taken not only the 3 years to work on this project, but a whole host of people have helped, from our staff on the Inclusiv side. I just want to acknowledge the hard work of staff members such as Pamela Owens, Andrea Lally, Ann Solomon, Kathy Mann, a whole host of people, Deborah Boatright, have helped work with these credit unions. It wasn't just one person. And also in terms of producing the guide itself. And then we really want to thank the credit unions for allowing us this opportunity to, dive in deep and hear some of their concerns and questions and areas and working with us, because again, it was a partnership and it wasn't us just providing money or just providing, template here and there. We met with them regularly over time and have built a really strong relationship with over 10 credit unions in New York City and over 10 in Chicago. I want to let you know at the beginning of the guide, we do talk about the importance of Black credit unions. And I just want to explain, just in case anybody's like a newcomer to this term, like, why are we calling them Black credit unions? And that is a term, it's a self-designated, there's with NCUA, there is a term called minority depository institutions. And the definition of that is a credit union that is led by over 50% of more of the board members, their leadership is people of color, and over 50% or more of their members, the credit union members, are people of color. And in this case, there are over 500 MDIs across the country. And then of those, there are about 350 that are working in the credit union space with Black communities. And so this idea of Black credit unions is not new. Our relationship with Black credit unions is not new. Black credit unions were part of the founding of Inclusiv, which was then the National Federation of Community Development Credit Unions, which was founded back in 1974. We'll hear more from some of the speakers about the importance of Black credit unions in their communities and how they came about. But I just want to put that framework that's there, and that these credit unions represent 17 billion in locally owned and community controlled assets. And they represent over 2 million or nearly 2 million people. So there's a lot of people who are receiving services, financial services, and these credit unions are providing deep they're financially inclusive services that their members need. So let's take a look. What are some of the topics that you'll find in the guide? And I meant to flag that this is not a how-to guide, just in case you're wondering if there's going to be worksheets or units and sections where you'll have, that sort of thing. What we wanted to do is sort of document our work together with the credit unions and with Citi. And what we want to provide a model or framework. And so that's what you're seeing, because this model or framework has worked with individual credit unions and it's also worked with credit unions that are part of like a group. So the New York example, there was more intensive work on a one-on-one basis with some group work. And then in Chicago, they were a pre-existing group of that have been meeting over 10 years, and then we came in to provide some support. So the chapters or sections that you'll see in the guide includes working with credit unions to identify strategic priorities, leveraging partnerships. A lot of times credit unions want to know how they can expand their field of membership to reach more and do more in their community. There's a lot of questions and work around technology, getting more modern, and in terms of new financial products and services that they want to offer their members. We do work with them on their regulatory compliance work, and the types of we're able to have conversations with them, with the credit unions on these topics, and provide support and help. And then if needed, if there are credit unions in some cases that do face transitions or mergers, we want to make sure that they have strong succession planning in place and things like that. And then as the last one is, we have a section on resources, raising resources needed for growth. And we found that there are many of the credit unions need additional funds, whether it's in the form of grants from the Citi at 5 fund, at the federal level, sometimes state funding, sometimes local funding. But the point is, there are resources and supports in the funding realm that these credit unions need to help bolster their work. Just being mindful of time, I wanted to let you know that one of the tools we use is the SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can take a closer look at it. This table is in the guide. There are some strengths with small credit unions. And just one characteristic of the NDIs just in general is over 87% of them are under $100 million in assets. And then over 50% of those are under 10 million, I'm sorry, in assets. So they tend to be on the smaller side, and that's a commonality for many of the majority of the smaller credit unions, and some of them are faith-based. And there's some shared characteristics across the country, and they tend to be located in certain areas, like primarily, like there's a lot of faith-based credit unions in the Midwest, which is why we work in Chicago, or in the South or the Northeast, and maybe less so in some of the other regions in the country, but they're still there as well. So some of the strengths that came up were credit unions are well capitalized, that they have these dedicated volunteers. Some of the weaknesses are that they tend to have few paid staff, if any. And so working with them, in terms of like being able to support full paid staff, that's where the funding, for example, comes in. Concerns that many credit unions share about aging membership. Opportunities include the fact that a lot of the credit unions do want to try to expand, increase their members, and grow, and which is a key part of why we wanted to not only preserve but also grow these credit unions and make them stronger so that they are around. And Inclusiv has put our full commitment behind this initiative. And we also want to help them with expanding product offerings and applying for grants. And then the threats, some concerns that have come up are like cybersecurity and aging volunteer base. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over for the roundtable discussion, which is the meat and the heart of this webinar. We know you guys want to hear from credit unions. They're the ones that did the heavy lifting, and so we want to give them enough time. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, who is an Inclusiv consultant and the moderator for this session, but her name is Deborah Boatright. She's a principal at DRB Consultancy. Deborah, worked very closely with all of the credit unions in both New York City and Chicago from the start of the program. So she knows the project intimately, and has worked really hard with them, have seen their struggles, have seen their successes. And so I'm going to turn this over to Deborah, and I'll minimize the slides. And Deborah, if you want to go ahead and.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Monica. It's really my honor and a pleasure to be here to moderate this panel discussion. As you said, is that I started 3 years ago as a consultant on this project, and it just has ballooned, certainly with the support of Citi, with Helen and Rob. We've done some incredible things with this project. So again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to facilitate. Before we get started, let me introduce the panel, the distinguished panel, as I call them. We have Denise Michaux, who is the president and CEO of Concord Federal Credit Union. A little bit about Denise. Denise was appointed to the Concord Federal Credit Union Board in October of 2018 and became president and chief executive officer in January of 2021. She has over 30 years of financial institution experience in the fields of compliance, internal audit, and community development, and has worked for large institutional banks such as Citigroup, Bank of New York, Mellon, and Chase. I want to welcome Denise and also want to say congratulations to her on her new appointment. The second person that we have that's going to be sitting at our round table is Dr. Daronda Crawford, and we're so happy to have her here from Chicago. Dr. Crawford is the president of the Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance, and she is a board member and supervisory committee secretary at Israel Mecom Federal Credit Union. She has been extremely busy since her 33 years working as an educator and principal. She finds the time to be the president of the Faith-Based Alliance, as well as working in Israel Mecom, but she also spends many hours locally in her community. She is teaching money management to local high school students, as well as she's doing computer courses at a homeless mission that was founded in 1877. So two incredible panelists who's on the ground every day dealing with the credit unions and helping them grow and preserve. So I want to say thank you to both of you. So let's get started with the questions. I'm going to have questions for both of you, and I'll let you know which questions are for both of you, and then also which questions are for you individually. Monica, as I understand, we're going to take about a minute or two for the answers. Hopefully that we can get to some questions of our participants. We have many participants on the phone, so feel free, on the Zoom, so feel free to go into the chat and put in your questions. The first question is for both of you, Denise and Dr. Crawford. When was your credit union founded? What is the feel of your membership? Who do you serve? And tell me a little bit about the key characteristics of your community and the residents that you serve.
Thank you for asking me to participate, first of all. Here at Concord Federal Credit Union, we were chartered in 1951. We are located in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, New York. And for those of you who do not know, Bedford-Stuyvesant, or we refer to it many times as Bed-Stuy, is a traditionally African-American community. Many of our residents are lower and moderate income individuals. The field of membership for the credit union, we are affiliated with the historic Concord Baptist Church, and our field of membership includes the parishioners of the church and the parishioners and their families, and the parishioners at a couple a small number of other churches in the community. Our field of membership also includes the residents of the Concord Nursing Home, the residents of the Concord Senior Housing Facility, Restoration, Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Center. They are included in our field of membership, and also a local charter school, a staff at the charter school. And all of these folks, of course, the field of membership also extends to their family members. What we found, and this is going back to 1951, about our reason that we're in existence, is at that time, it was noticed and it was noticeable that the residents of the community were having a very difficult time obtaining credit, obtaining loans. And as we all know, the opportunity to borrow and credit is going to make the difference many times in your quality of life. A lot of the things that you want, a lot of the things that will show that you are successful depends upon credit. And our community was having a very difficult time back in 1951 in obtaining credit. And that's the major driving force for the existence of Concord Federal Credit Union, to provide credit opportunities to the local people.
Thank you, Denise. It's very, very important. Dr. Crawford, would you like to share with us, something about let's start with Israel Metcom, and then if you want to talk a little bit about, we'll get more into the alliance with a few questions later on. But you want to share with us about when it was founded, what's the field of membership, and a little bit about the key characteristics of the neighborhoods that you serve.
Well, Israel Methcom Federal Credit Union was founded by my father-in-law in 1963, Pastor Hiram Crawford Sr. And he was an AME Zion pastor, so he was moved around a lot, but he believed in the credit union movement. So everywhere he went, he started a credit union. He was sent to 4 states, and he started a credit union in Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, and Illinois. And of course, that's Israel Methcom. He was also very, very forward thinking. So for the field of membership, he not only included the church and the families of the church, but he also included any affiliates of the church. And so that kind of expanded our field of membership. And we have now acquired a common bond charter, so we are able to even move further with our field of membership. As far as the key characteristics of the community, just like Denise's credit union, it's basically African-American. The population is actually 100% African-American. And it is also low income. Blacks are 55.3% combined unbanked and underbanked. And the greater Grand Crossing area where the church is located is 1/5 of them are low income or under the poverty level. And 49% of low income people are unbanked or underbanked. Now this compared to the national average of 27% unbanked and underbanked, that makes us like twice or more than twice the likelihood of being unbanked or underbanked. So as far as the Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance, basically those credit unions also are in African-American communities and in low income. So all of our credit unions in the Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance are low income designated. We made sure of that. And they are also minority depository institutions.
It's great information, both from Denise and Dr. Crawford. And it just shows you, given those statistics, that there is lots of room for growth in terms of unbanked and underserved people in both of your communities. And so we're definitely so happy that you're there. Denise, what about the impact or the benefit of having a credit union in Black communities during this pandemic?
Well, we have found that the benefit, the benefit, I think, in general for us being here and serving our community is that the members of the community feel comfortable dealing with us, and they feel that they are seen. Many times you have people in the community who will go to one of the larger banks, the multinational banks who might have a branch in the community, and they feel overlooked, or they feel that they're hustled along, like to get them in and out, quickly. But here we pride ourselves on our service, our personal service. We try to get to know our members and what's going on in their lives. And their family members, whether they're married or have children, or their children getting ready to go to college, that sort of thing. So I think one of the benefits of us being here is that we are able to really communicate and connect with our members. And during the pandemic, it did pose problems. We had to cut back on our service hours. And when members do come to the credit union, of course, they have to wear masks, they have to socially distance. We have some staff members who, because of the pandemic, they work from home and they're not able to personally interact with with the members as they would in the past. So the pandemic, of course, has posed challenges to everyone, and we are not any different. We have met these challenges, we believe. And we still see a steady stream of customers come in, even during our limited hours. And I think that's a testament to how comfortable, and I'll use the term at home, that they feel with us.
Thank you so much, Denise. I was going to bring that out about how comfortable that one-on-one personal attention that the credit unions are known for. We want to treasure that. And even during the pandemic, you were still able to give that. Do you have any examples, Dr. Crawford, of some experiences during the pandemic and how impactful you were to your community?
Yes, we have actually several, but we have especially one. We had one of our members that had been a manager of a candy store, and she had been with that company for, I believe it was 23 years. And they first closed the store because of the pandemic. And then she was called to a Zoom call, and lo and behold, they were closing her store permanently. And not only closing her store, but they were not planning to reopen the store or provide her with employment, even though she had been there all those years. So she was, she had a couple of loans with us. We were able, as well as we were able to help the other faith-based credit unions to get the NCUA grant that where you could help your members. And so we were able to help her. And now she is reinventing herself as an online travel agent. And we're looking forward to the RRP being able to help her in that endeavor. So there are lots of other stories, but it's just gratifying when you can see and help people. And I guess that's what really drives me with the Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance, because those credit unions are trying to do the same thing that we're doing, just like Concord is doing, trying to help the people to make it and to survive. So it's really a blessing.
Right. And that alliance, and you'll talk about this a little bit, is an alliance of 10 or 12 credit unions that have come together and they're working collaboratively. And again, that's the benefit of partnership and sort of leaning on one another. And I know that the Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance is a testament and an example of that. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this project. Monica spoke about, we came into, started working with the Harlem cohort about 3 years ago, about 18 months, almost 2 months ago. 2 years ago, Dr. Crawford, is that we started working in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that we did is that we got to know, all of the staff. Andrea and I, who was my teammate, and Pam Owens, we got to know the staff, we got to know some of the operations, we got you to feel comfortable with us. And then we brought out our major tool, which Monica addressed, which was the SWOT: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So tell me, prior to the SWOT, talk a little bit about what were some of the challenges, that you faced at the time that we presented that tool to you for your individual credit union, and as well as the alliance to work on. Tell me about some of the challenges. And I know, Denise, you may not have worked on the SWOT, but I believe you were a board member at the particular time in 2018. So I'm going to start with Dr. Crawford as it relates to Israel Medcom and also the alliance.
Yeah, so the Alliance had done a needs assessment, and we had identified that there was definitely a need for succession planning. And so, of course, I'm a problem solver. I try to figure out stuff and how can we get these things done. So I wrote 2 grants. I wrote one NCUA grant because I also wrote a CDFI grant, but I didn't really expect to get the CDFI grant. So I said, well, we'll have the NCUA grant as a backup. And we actually got both. So we were able to bring in Inclusiv to address that need. And we also were able to do quite a number of things with Israel MEFCOM, including train one of our people in at the CUNA Management School. But we have learned that it's very, very critical that we work with the needs that there are. And we realized that we had to have income stream. So we're still looking for participatory loans. Come on, help us, guys. We need that. These small credit unions need that. But identified with the SWOT, we identified as a group that we needed to increase loans, we needed to increase field of membership, and on the back burner was technology, but that ended up being on the front burner, and I'm gonna stop there.
Right. And that was, again, a testament to the alliance and everybody pulling together, that you were able to develop really a strategic plan around upgrading your technology. So Denise, tell me about the challenges that were uncovered when you began to do the chat. And I know your board, you have a superb board. I mean, they were so involved, and I was so impressed when I came into work with Concord, is that you were ready to look your challenges in the face. Tell us about some of those challenges.
Well, probably the major challenge was our aging membership. And as the membership ages, the use of products changes. Another challenge that we had was the products that we were offering. And that needed to be upgraded. If we wanted to get a younger membership, or we wanted to bring in younger members, well, there's certain products that younger people want and they will, demand. And that was a major challenge to start offering those type of products. And the major product that we felt that we had to institute almost as soon as we can, and that was ACH, and being able to transfer funds using, home banking. And actually that came in very handy during the pandemic also. But that was a major challenge that the SWOT analysis unearthed, put it that way. And also the need to have a documented strategic plan. It's like you can't go where you want to go if you don't have the map. So the SWOT analysis really highlighted that also, that we needed to develop a strategic plan.
That's great. And you're so true about the strategic plan. Is it's your roadmap.
Yes.
And so happy that came out, and so happy that you folks took that on. And I understand, that you did move forward to develop that. Dr. Crawford, tell me, and I think you both answered this, but if there's any other areas that you'd like to speak on, you uncovered, Dr. Crawford, about the loan growth, participation loan, other products and services in the lending sphere. Tell me, is there another weakness other than that, or the technology that you want to bring forth that you were able to develop a plan around? Or threats? Maybe it was in the threat area. Many groups that I participated in with their SWOT, they talked about cybersecurity. Maybe it was there. So are there any other areas that you want to bring up that you uncovered during the SWOT, and then you went about to do something about it? And what was that, and what was the plan?
Well, of course, once the pandemic started, our credit unions had to close. And that was where we had the shift to move from, one of our teams was working on lending and the other was working on field of membership. And we moved as a group, to increasing technology so that we would have remote access. And I just cannot thank the Illinois Credit Union League enough. I cannot thank Inclusiv enough, and I cannot thank Citibank enough, because you guys allowed us to be able to move to this technology move. Little itty bitty credit unions. I mean, they're not even small. Ours are itty bitty. And now we are moving to a core processor that will allow us to have home banking. Every single credit union will have a website, and all of this, it's just unbelievable that we are going to be able to do this. And it was because, first of all, actually, Andrea said we got to move to technology. It was her idea. And then we were just looking really at, I think, VPNs or whatever. We went to 5 of our credit unions had one particular core processor. We went to them and they said, well, you know, I think we can put you all together and charge you as one. I said, that sounds good to me. So, you know, we listened to what they had to say, but then it turns out that they couldn't do it. And so we said, well, let's look at somebody else. Maybe somebody else can do it. And lo and behold, one of them was able to. And I have to give a shout out to Robin Hollis, who has worked consistently in pulling this together. Her boss, Tom Kane, Melanie from the foundation, the Illinois Credit Union Foundation gave us a large amount of money. And through the resilience grant that Inclusiv had, that Citibank paid for, each of our credit unions was able to get $10,000. And all of this combined, 2 of our credit unions in the state of Illinois gave us grants. So combining all these together has made it possible for us to have not only this core processor and website, and I'm going to talk about something else later, but it has also allowed us to be able to pay for this for 1 year. Now, these little credit unions could not pay the monthly fee. I mean, there is no way. So for 1 year, it's paid for. Thank you, Citibank. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Inclusiv. Thank you, Foundation. Thank you, Illinois Credit Union League. We are tremendously appreciative, and we're still looking for a steady income stream so that we can help these credit unions.
That's great, Dr. Crawford. It takes a village. We always say that. It takes a village. I want to move into a topic about products and services. You've talked a little bit about that, about your technology, Dr. Crawford. I want to ask Denise, okay, are there products and services that your credit union offers to help with the inequality in wealth? You know, when we talk about the wealth gap, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and this issue around the wealth gap is very prevalent in this area of the city. You know, New York, people think of New York as this big, wealthy monolith, and without realizing that there are people in the community who are really suffering because their income just isn't enough to even keep their families moving, you know, keep their families moving ahead. So the wealth gap is a problem. One product that we offer directly addresses that. And it's a product that we call the empowerment loan. And it's a loan specifically designed for people who have a low credit score, or they might not have any credit score at all because they've never borrowed anything. And the purpose of the loan is to get them into the financial banking system. So one of the features of the loan is that a certain amount of the loan they have to keep on deposit here at the credit union, and that money will receive the generous dividend that we give out every quarter. And then the other portion of the loan, they can do what it is that they need to do. A requirement for this loan is that the borrower has to commit to taking a financial literacy training course. And one of the things that will be highlighted in that course is how to budget and how to maintain your credit score, what goes into your credit score, what you can do to keep your credit score where it should be. So this loan program that we have, the empowerment loan, is one of the main products that we have that is addressing the wealth gap. And then incidentally, I'll say that just the dividend that we pay on our shares, it's the highest of any financial institution in this area, probably the highest of any financial institution in the borough of Brooklyn. And our board is looking at that to see if it can be maintained. But if you buy shares here, if you open an account here with us, you get a really good return on your money.
So I want to say, one of the questions I was going to ask you about is about the niche that credit unions have. And certainly you've just told us about Concord, about your niche as it relates to other financial institutions around the interest rate that that you pay. That's a real niche and a really important aspect. I want to move on to the partners just a little bit, because I want to give Dr. Crawford an opportunity to talk about her partnership, because I do consider the Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance, you know, a partnership. So I want her to talk just a little bit about how it got started and the benefit of that. And then Denise, I want you to talk about Concord and Bed-Stuy Restoration Partnership. It was a really beneficial partnership that we put together a couple of years ago. And just, I want you to speak on that, because I think that the folks on in the room would really like to know a little more about that. So do you want to start, Dr. Crawford, with the faith-based? Tell us just a little bit about the Alliance and the benefit of being in this Alliance. Some of it you alluded to, but if there's anything else, it's an incredible collaborative effort that you folks have put together in Chicago. I learned so much being in Chicago and working with you folks.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, a friend of ours, Ted Wardlow, he said, you know, we need to come together. We're small credit unions, and with what's going on, we need to come together. So we had our first meeting, and Joyce Jackson, who was with the Illinois Credit Union League, she came armed with a list of all the faith-based credit unions in Illinois. And I think we had about 4 or 5 credit unions at that meeting. And we started contacting and getting in touch with credit unions. The Faith-Based Credit Union Alliance, not only have we started the core processor, but we also now through the Illinois Credit Union League have a collaborative digital marketing program. And the league is actually charging us, all of us, 11 of us, the same amount that they would charge one. So that's a tremendous blessing. And we provide all the mandatory trainings as a group. As I said before, we assured that all of our credit unions were low income designated so that we would be able to receive the NCUA grant, and that they are all DIs. 6 of our credit unions are CDFI certified. 3 became certified since our inception through the traditional method. 2 became certified through the streamlined method. And then we had 2 to join us in that were already CDFI certified. And we actually just now put through a group of 6 to finish the streamline program. So we're really excited about that. We disseminate all kinds of information. When a grant comes up, for instance, the resilience grant, we want to be sure that everybody gets it. So we put together a narrative. We try to fill out as much of the information as possible for them. And then we send it out to them, and they just have minimal information, because you have to understand, all of our credit unions are volunteers. We have one credit union that has full-time staff and one other credit union that has part-time staff, but everybody else is volunteering. And some of these volunteers are still working. So to come up with extra things that need to be done is more than a notion. So we try to do as much as we can so that, you know, they will be able to benefit from the opportunities that are out there. And I don't know what we call if they need help, they call us. We text, we email, we go back and forth to help out in whatever way we can. So that's what we do.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Do you want to say 2 sentences, Denise? Because my control room is telling me I have to wrap up. So Denise, you want to just say, you know, a couple of sentences about the benefit of working with 2 legacy institutions in Brooklyn.
Yes, and it's through the good work of Inclusiv, really, that we were able to partner with the Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation, which is a long time community development organization here in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And what they'll do is they have clients who they deal with, who they're helping them get their finances in order. They're helping small business people get their businesses up and running. They're helping people file their tax returns on time and coaching them about what to do, how to use their money. And so the program works where they will refer their clients to us. They have a client who's in need of a bank account, and instead of going to the big, large institutions that are available, they'll refer them over to us. They might have a small business person, an entrepreneur who is looking for some funds to start a business or replace equipment or something like that. And we are well known to them. They know basically the type of rates that we charge, which is also lower than what people will find with the major financial institutions. And they'll refer their clients over to us when they have that need to get a loan. So it's that type of relationship where they know what we do, they know the services that we offer, and the clients who they feel will really benefit from having a relationship with Concord, they will refer them over to us. And then we'll take it from there with their clients. So it's that type of referral type relationship.
Right. Great information, Denise. Again, 2 legacy institutions in a very important neighborhood in New York City. So I want to thank you both. I'm going to hand it back over to Monica to see if we can get a couple of questions in. A lot of information that we shared with our participants. This is going to be, you know, this is taped, and also Monica, you know, I don't know if you want to put the contact information for Concord as well as for the faith-based credit union, so that folks will know how to get in touch with them directly. But this has been a wonderful afternoon for me, and I hope that everyone enjoyed it. And thank you again, Denise and Dr. Crawford. Monica?
Thank you, Deborah, so much. And thank you both, Dr. Crawford and Denise. It was a wonderful conversation. I hope that I got a lot out of it. I hope that listeners did as well. We actually are very close to closing. So I think if anybody does have questions, feel free to type it, and we could try to get you those questions, get those questions to the panelists and the speakers. But right at this point, we're reaching that point where we do need to wrap up. So at this time, I do want to thank everybody for participating and making the time to either listen in and also, you know, receive this information. I wanted to pause and say during this moment where we're dealing with a lot historically and, you know, dealing with anti-racism for many of our communities, that this working with the Black credit unions is a very concrete way to support and help. If people are like, how can I help advance racial equity? This is, you know, you've heard some of the requests, like, you know, funding would help, helping with the business plan or strategic plan could help, reaching out, you know, we've heard lots of praises for the leagues. So also New York Credit Union Association was part of the project, as well as the Illinois Credit Union League, but you know, there are leagues across the country. We wanted to present the guide as a way and as a tool and a resource, letting you know that Inclusiv is here to help. We help our members. We're happy to walk alongside them, address any questions, link them up and connect them. We're trying to do more regional work and expand the initiative as a whole, but we can't help everybody. So what we're saying is we want everybody as a whole, like as a village, to step up and take this charge. So if you are a technical assistance provider or somebody, you know, who has an idea and you want to brainstorm and reach out to your NDI in your community, NCUA has a resource and a section of their website that addresses preserving. We have an initiative to preserve NDIs. Also, I wanted to flag, just in case anybody was worried or concerned, is like, are you only helping Black credit unions? No, Inclusive helps all credit unions of all sizes. We do have initiatives like the Resilience Grant Fund, for example. It was addressing and helping MDIs as a whole. So Hispanic and Latino credit unions, we have the Juntos Avanzamos program, Asian credit unions, Native American credit unions. So there are a lot of credit unions that could use your support. And I'll just, you know, give my co-presenters a chance if anybody wants to raise up any last things in the few minutes that we have.
Monica, I want to say to give a shout out to Robin Hollis from the League. Really, she was just incredible when we were in Chicago.
Man.
And I know that Dr. Crawford mentioned her, but I personally want to say, Robin, if you're in the room, you were so helpful and we really appreciate it.
And Tom Kane, her boss, let her do it. He's wonderful.
All right, and just in case, you know, there are people asking, you know, we can make sure you get the guide as well as the recording, the slides, and I hope you all have a great and wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so.